Hey, what is happening? Hey, goodness to you. It's Sporty King. And I always like to say goodness because I don't know whether you're watching morning, afternoon, or evening. But isn't it great to have good in front of your salutation? We've got less than 2 minutes to go for today's message. So if you're watching the video, you can either fast forward or just chill out for another minute plus something. But I always like to come on a little earlier than the listed time. Give people a chance to close down what they're doing and get on the broadcast if they want to be on live. That's a tech tip, by the way, because a lot of times people, no one's sitting around. Okay, let me see. 1 o'clock Sporty's coming on. I'm not going to do anything. No, they still got stuff to do. Still got life going on, and that's the blessing. Or they may need the diversion. Okay, but anyway, always try to come on a little early, and I use that as a life tip as well. Is because I'm going to start at 1 o'clock. That's what you have to do. I don't say, oh, well, let's wait for a few more people. No, I tell you what time I'm starting. I may open the doors early or whatever because I'm going to start on time. And so that's the way you should do it. So it's less than a minute to go for today's message. So we want you to always be conscious of that because that becomes part of your reputation. And please give us a time. Let me know where you're coming in, viewing in from, because I like to do my shout outs interactive on Wednesdays. So let me know where you're viewing in from and the chat and in a thread. Oh, I'm so used to Zoom, and I just did a WebEx seminar this past weekend, which I hadn't done WebEx before. I'm more comfortable with Zoom. I had a lot of troubles getting my slides loaded up on WebEx, but you can bet that the next time I do it, I'll figure out how to work it better. So let me know where you're watching in from. We've got less than seconds to go, like 10 seconds before we start today's message. So let's get ready to do that. And if you're watching the video, remember, you can still participate. In fact, I insist that it is now 1 o'clock. So let's get rolling, okay? So welcome to Glue Wednesday. I created it because so often we hear people say that Wednesday is hump day. Well, a non-technical definition of that is back from the old school days where we used to say that we work Monday to Friday and then the weekend. We didn't have the term flex time, but there's always been flex time. So people used to say Wednesday was hump day because it was the middle of the work week. Well, I say that Wednesday is the middle of a traditional 7-day week, regardless of when you work. So it's the day that keeps the week beginning and the week end together. So it's the glue. And therefore, it puts me in one of my favorite poses, which is a prayerful pose, but reminding us that it's the glue that we don't need to hump, but we need to find ways to keep it together. And that's why I call it Glue Wednesday. And GLUE is for God's love undoes everything. And here, like I said, get to do my hellos. What's going on, Daphne? Man, my timing has been totally off with the broadcast for the past 3 weeks. Well, there's no time like the present. And and you are here, Daphne. And isn't that all that has counted every time? Whenever you've gotten in there, then we have a spot for your shout out because we reserve your seat. That's another thing you have to remember in life. People reserve your seat based on who you are. Let's get rolling, okay? So today I'm opening my thanks series, THANKS, where each of the messages will focus on one of the letters of the broadcast series. So THANK or S. Now my affirmation, thanks, THANKS, is the heart always needs kindred spirits. Yeah, that's why we get some applause. The heart always needs kindred spirits. Where was I? And so Ramona, who I call my editing co-author, smilingly sent me her word. I'm sorry. What will happen is each person who I call my co-author will give me a word beginning with the letter H, and that'll be my focus. But when we think about the heart always needing kindred spirits, that's what we want to give thanks for. We thank people that they are in our lives and the impact that they have on our lives. So when my authors were sending their words in, Ramona, who I call my editing co-author, smilingly wrote, harvest is my name, is my word, H for harvest, because harvest time, as we get ready for Thanksgiving, you are messing with my brain, meanwhile, without starting with the letter T as in thanks. I wanted to highlight that because indeed I am doing that. I'm messing with her brain by not starting the letter with the letter T in thanks. For though many might connect it to the excitement in the upcoming Thanksgiving season and holiday, some may replace the word happy Thanksgiving with first, as this will be their first Thanksgiving without a certain person or a certain loved one. Thus, I'll have two guiding scriptures today, starting with Matthew 3 and 15, which were Jesus's first words in the New Testament and the journey he stuck to. But Jesus said it must be done because we must do everything that is right. Now, along with suggested words from my co-authors, you see one of them there, but Ramona Hopkins gave me harvest, Bob Ford gave me hope, Deborah Lorick gave me healing, Jose Valim, oh my gosh. Oh, Daphne, you're not a co-author this week? Jose gave me heaven, Rogercarole gave me hectic, and Victor gave me happy. And Daphne, I hope I didn't miss your word. But anyway, I will, with these co-authors' words, I will find a way to get each of their words into the message, which I've created, which is called Fearing in First. And I chose that title because it can have three meanings on your ear. If you're not looking, if you just hear fearing in first. So the first is fearing, Fearing in first. How am I going to get through this day? What's so happy about it? There's fear of that first time that you're going to experience something without somebody. And then there's fearing, Fair, in first. Where people just think it's just not fair. How does God choose when to take who he takes? Sometimes people just feel it's just not fair. And then the final one, and the one I am using, fearing, Faring. And I want to come back to, guess what? How are each of us doing as new firsts unfold? See, everyone is having a first at something. We're right now talking about Thanksgiving, but everyone is talking about something. Oh, you couldn't find me to get a word in? That's okay. So find to be your word. But anyway, so if I dare to use the word fortunately here, my mother died in January. Therefore, I was fortunate. I was able to brace myself for each man-made calendar celebration, which would be my first without my mother. I'll happily use the word fortunately to say that I've been saying, don't allow the man-made calendar to restrict your celebrations of the ones you love to one day. I've been saying that for a long time. So you know what I want to say to you today? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And I start there because when you lose a loved one, sometimes it's like starting from scratch. And it's going to take a while to adjust to the formula to remind yourself that your goal should never be to get over the loss. Your goal is to accept living with it. And you'll come back to that first day and remember or wonder how you got through it. And that's why I chose Matthew 3 and 15 as my guiding scripture. It's actually also my 2021 scriptural theme. You see, since 2014, I've chosen and added an annual theme to my morning reading meditation. Those were Jesus's first words in the New Testament. His last would be in John 19 and 30. It is finished. And in between those words would be one of my favorite beliefs. And that is that God does not work in mysterious ways. We just don't know the plan. In my book of affirmations, I remind us that he is on the planning committee while we are on the implementation crew, which turns things around. The implementation crew in my book starting today turns things around and points us back to the 4 words we recite in the Lord's Prayer: thy will be done. thy will be done. And here's the saying for the implementation crew. So often we complain about the week from hell, where we got nothing done because of problems, trials, and tribulations. Well, how about the week from heaven, where so many blessings showered down that we didn't get to do all we had planned? I wish you a week from heaven where nothing goes according to your plans, yet everything according to his master plan. Thy will be done. Yet maybe that is the plan. Live and share your life so that others will have to learn to live without your physical presence while never letting go of who you prepared them to be. And that takes us to my second guiding scripture of today's message. And this is actually what I prayed when my mother first went into the hospital back in 2006. She would die. That was in November of 2006. She would die in January of 2007. And that's Genesis 22:2. Stay here with the donkey, Abraham told the young man. The boy and I will travel a little farther. We will worship there, and then we will come right back. What drew me to it was Abraham's last statement. We will worship there, and then we will come right back. You see, Abraham understood his place on the implementation crew. And my favorite Bible is called the Touchpoint Bible, which has modern day analogies to make scripture clearer. And the touch point for Genesis 22:5 is testing. Testing. Who can fathom being asked to sacrifice one's own child? How can such a thing be required by a compassionate God of love? Through Abraham, God wanted to create a people of obedience and faith. Abraham, as the leader of this people, needed to know that he could trust God absolutely, even when obedience threatened to exact an unspeakable cost. God's purpose was not to take Isaac from Abraham, but to test and strengthen Abraham's faith. Abraham learned that day that God can be trusted. Have you learned to trust God with your life, your treasures, your future, and your obedience? You see, God's purpose was not to take Isaac from Abraham, but to test and strengthen Abraham's faith. We all have read the Bible, and we know that the story about Abraham taking his son Isaac up to the mountain to sacrifice him. And just before Abraham, he had drawn the knife, and before he could stab his son Isaac and take his life, God said, "Hey, Abraham, check out the bushes." And then a line that we're familiar with, a ram in the bush. There was a ram in the bush, and that was the sacrifice that God wanted Abraham to make. So he was just testing Abraham's faith, because he told them, I want you to take your son and sacrifice him to me. But then once he got here, he said, okay, I want you to take your son up there to sacrifice. Now that I see you're willing to do that, I know that you trust me. I know that you trust him with your life, your treasures, your future, and your obedience. I'm not going to take your son from you. There is your sacrifice. And see, that touch point later became my 2013 annual scripture, and one that I offer to any of you who have suffered a loss. In fact, Vic, who's not on right now, but it's one of my co-authors, Vic lost his mother last week. So I want to say, bless you, my homie, when you come on and watch the video. Yet on November 12th, he posted on Facebook, hey, Ma, first day waking up without you. And you see, I believe that's the best way to live it. I remember the first time I spoke about my mother in the past tense during a speaking engagement. I was speaking with the South Carolina Army National Guard. And I was just giving them an example of something. And I said, well, you know what? like my mother always used to say. And then when I said it, I was like, oh my God. Because, we'll say that even while our parents are alive. Even when I was alive, I'd say, well, my mother always used to say. But this time when I said it, I was speaking of her in the past tense because she will never say that again. And that's how it can hit you that first time when you say something, when you quote somebody, when you do something that you're used to doing with them there or having them do for you. So it hit me and I pulled it together because I heard myself and I felt ready to choke up. Yet I was able to pull myself together. And you know what? I get better at it each time and each day. Yes, thank you, Daphne. Oh, wow, Vic. Yeah, praying for our brother, okay? But here's what I want you to do at Daphne, since you're with me, and I'm going to need anybody who's on the video. I want you to do the same thing. And that is outside of holidays, what are some firsts that you've experienced after a loved one has gone to heaven? Outside of holidays, what are some firsts? See, that was one of my first, the first time I spoke about my mother in the past tense. And please write yours in the thread. And again, if you're watching the video, I still want you to do that because I'm going to put some time in between moving on and give you some a chance to see the synchronicity in the message and what's going on in our lives. Because I also remember the first time that actually one of my first thoughts that came to me when my mother died was a certain meal that I wasn't going to have. And not that I reduced my mother's life to a meal, but how often do we take these people in our lives for granted? And I just always thought that she'd be there for me to do that. Well, I decided I was not going to be without that meal. So I remember the first time I cooked it without her. And it didn't taste as good, but each time it got better. Because what was I doing? It was my first time bringing her into my life ceremonially while I cooked. See, your first leads you to other things, and you get new coping mechanisms and strategies to keep you going and to help you deal with stuff. Because grief is tough. And again, it's gosh, Vic's just a couple of weeks away. I got friends who have lost loved ones this year. Or friends who have lost loved ones since December. So that's why this Thanksgiving will be there first. But guess what? Today is also the first day in the 20s of November that person may be gone. Find as many firsts. So what are some of the firsts you've experienced after a loved one has gone to heaven? Daphne, do you have one you can throw one in there? And boom, time, and there I go. Mom and I would analyze our dreams. Mom and I would analyze. So what was the first time you experienced her not, and because how often did you do it? Did you do it on a weekly basis? When was the first time you were unable to analyze dreams with your mother? That's what I want people to put in the thread. When was the first time you did XYZ? And notice I said without a loved one, because it's not always our parents. They're children, they're siblings, they're best friends, good friends, co-workers. There's so many firsts. We have enough firsts to fill up a calendar, y'all. So, and that's, if we can get conscious about recognizing that, you'll see something that I'm going to say later in our message that will help you deal with it. And remember, what did I say about the goal? Your goal is never to get over it. Your goal is to learn to live with it. So I'm going to move on, and then hopefully Daphne will put something in. What's another first? So when was the first time you realized you couldn't analyze dreams with your mother? When was the first time certain things happened? Okay. All right. Now, meanwhile, as I said, I'd like us to, and here's the reason why I want us to put them in a thread, not only to make someone aware of the types of firsts there are, yet also to help their healing as they read how many have been lived through and how many have been lived with. And that's how many firsts people have lived through. Daphne has lived through not having a mother there to analyze with her. I've lived through my mother not being able to cook certain things, not being able to change the quote and her opinions and to hear her laugh. I've lived through those things. And guess what? Sharing hope is part of our role on the implementation crew because only God is on the planning committee. Sharing life is the best way to do it. So sharing that hope, reminding people that you will be healed, you're going to get through. And here is my life as an example to show you that it's possible. And while you're doing that, if again, still putting stuff in the thread, because remember, you want somebody else to be able to read it. While you're doing that, I'll go back to the closing lines in that touch point that I read you about testing. See, Abraham learned that day that God can be trusted. Have you learned to trust God with your life, with your treasures, with your future, and with your obedience? See, in these hectic times, we'll never know why God takes who he takes when he takes them. Yet we'll always know that he gave them to us and us to them for what becomes what is commonly known as a short time. Because you ever said life is short. So whoever God has taken from you or he's taken you from them, God, this life is short. We get people in our life for a short time. So find comfort in now knowing that your first times won't be your last. You will continue to have first times and they'll hit you. They'll hit you. But when they do, you're going to be okay because others have been through some of the first that you can read about in the thread. And you can say, oh, wow, I went through that first. Oh, my goodness, that first is coming up for me. See, that's what I want this post to do, is to allow you to read the thread and get some new encouragement. For as we go back to Ramona's smiling email that she sent to me, where she said, harvest time as we get ready for it, but you are messing with my brain without starting with the letter T in thanks. Well, here's what I wrote to her. Using the words out of order is a key speaker technique because you want to make sure that your audience needs you. If they can figure out where you're going next time, if they can figure out where you're going next, sometimes they don't need you to get them there. So they get there too soon and possibly arrive in the wrong spot. Daphne says, there are so many things after 33 years become December 2nd. I'll really have to think. Oh, okay. And that's fine. There's so many things after that. Oh, so God, you and your mother did that for 33 years. And was December 2nd when she passed? So come December 2nd. So will that be the first? See there, well, and there's one of the first. But will that be the first, Daphne? Did your mother just die last year? And there's what I'm saying. Yes, okay. See, December 2nd. So her first is coming up. Yeah, so imagine how many firsts she's been through already. So Daphne's already been through the first New Year's. Wow, and it came right up. She already been through the first Christmas, the first New Year's, the first Valentine's Day, the first Mother's Day. See, that's what I'm saying. If we put those in, we can help somebody see, wow, yeah. Because somebody said, well, and again, remember that second fear? It's not fear. Why did God take this person away so close to such and such a holiday? We were so getting ready to go on this vacation. Yeah, 33 years. Oh, has she been gone for 33 years? After 33 years come December 2nd. Okay, it was December 2nd. Was it last year that she died on December 2nd or 33 years ago, December 2nd? And wow, Daphne, that, my mother's been gone for 14 years. She died in 2007. And one of the things that I used to get myself through that initial shock and that day, I thought about my younger brothers and sisters, my nieces and nephews who relied on her. And I thought about, what if I thought about how at the time I was 56. I said, wow, I've had a mother for 56 years. And I put myself in each and one of their shoes at their age and said, what if I had lost my mother at that age? Where was I when, at 55, 57, 50, I mean, 54, 52, 40s, some of them in the 30s, some in the teens, some in less than 10. So I can also feel empathy with you there, Daphne, because where would I have, 33 years ago, if I had lost my mother? So if I had been, so that would be 30, I don't do math on the spot without my calculator. 30, I'd have been 35. I'd have been 36. I had actually just relocated to Chicago. So I was 36. And so I would have been in my couple of years from turning over into my entrepreneurial career, because it was in 38 when I started my own business, as well as that was when I started my spiritual awakening with God. It was at 38. So 36. Wow. Rogercarole has joined, and my mom died 2 years ago. Wow. Oh my God, Daphne. Oh, at least I got the math right. Your mom was 69. Okay. And you were 35. Gotcha. Yeah. 33 years. Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. And see, now I'm 69. Yeah. So if I had been 35 when my mother died, I was in Chicago. I was in, starting to make that decision about leaving the Wall Street Journal and starting out my own life as a motivational speaker. So that's what I did to get myself through. And Rogercarole, your mother died 2 years ago. And so she's been through a couple of seconds, but I bet you still got some firsts that you haven't experienced without your mother. So if you've got any first, throw them in the thread. That's what we're looking for, is just put as many first in there. I'm gonna throw some in after the broadcast, because I need to go and run it over and share it on another couple of platforms. But thank you, Rogercarole, and thank you, Daphne. I appreciate you. But there's that speaking technique. That's what I told. That's why I didn't start with the T in thanks, because as a speaker, so I could give a speaking tip still. As a speaker, you want your audience to need you, and you want to guide them to where you need to go. And if they can figure out your next step, then they lose attention, and then it comes to them. They may get there too fast if it's the right spot, but they may get there and not get the point. Because it's it's not just, remember, in life, it's not just about getting there. It's what's the point in getting there. Okay. So that's a speaker technique that I use. Meanwhile, I also and then this is what I continue to say to Ramona. Meanwhile, I also continuously use that technique to make the subliminal message that things don't always happen sequentially. Yet, you still have to give thanks. And then I said, I like that. I got to post it. And then I gave Ramona her flowers. You are so wonderfully my editor and co-author extraordinaire. But I want you to think about that. Things don't always happen sequentially. Yet you can trust and believe that you will eventually fare well in your first. But they're not going to always happen sequentially. So I want to thank my co-authors today, Ramona, Bob, Deborah, Huss, Rogercarole, and Vic. And see the comment, Mom didn't get a chance to witness me getting my teaching degree. See? And that, beautiful. Thank you, Daphne, because you twisted it. The first that you didn't get to share with her was something that she didn't get to share with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've got some firsts coming. And so I can imagine that on that day, Daphne probably thanked her mother and took it in honor of her. And how many athletes do you see point up to the sky when they do a good play? These are a lot of firsts. And that's what I wanted to really bring out today, is just get the firsts out there. So remember, I thank my co-authors today. And just a blessing that Vic could use the word happy as he goes through the beginning of his grieving process. the joy for him, as I know it was for me, is that his mother what did get sick. And so you prep yourself. The challenge I know is when someone who loses someone instantly, where they may have been in a car accident, or maybe somebody got murdered, someone lost their life, from a fall, instantly, where they were in good health and they suddenly had a heart attack. We don't need to be in denial. These things happen. And so as we get comfortable in talking about them, we get comfortable in talking with the people who need us to, because a lot of times they're not in denial. One of the things I do with my military, that I learned, is that when talking about suicide, you don't say, "Are you thinking about hurting yourself?" You say, "Are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about suicide?" See, if someone who may be thinking about suicide, taking their life by suicide, they don't see it as hurting themselves. Sometimes it's a self-esteem issue where they're saying, "I'm going to help others by taking myself out of the picture. So I'm not hurting myself, I'm helping others." You don't know what's going on in someone's mind, but you do need to talk direct. Are you thinking about taking your life by suicide? And so therefore, when we talk about a loved one who has died, we can say they died, but we can say they went to heaven. We can say they passed away. They're words, but it's tough, and we all go through things. And what Daphne said, I'm a little slow sometimes, sure, but you know what? I like to turn things around. And how about I'm a little more patient than I was? I'm a little slow sometimes. I'm a little more patient than I was, because we need to slow down. Hey, just by the aging process, it happens anyway. But I have learned and decided to take my slower movements as a better handling of my patience, because now that quick move that I thought that I always made, I realized I don't have to move that fast. So, I'm a little slow sometimes, yeah, because I'm a little bit more patient. Rogercarole, my mother didn't get a chance to meet her great grandchild, Ella, that crazy Ella. I love that little personable girl. And the new one that's on the way, first will continue to happen. That Daphne said, "Don't turn around. I'm slow." Okay, you got it, Daphne. But there's another first in Rogercarole. Yeah, her mother won't get to meet her great grandchild. And now the next one that's coming away, because Rogercarole's daughter Simone is pregnant and will be having another child next year. So yeah, the first are never going to stop, y'all. Thank y'all for adding those. Thank you, Rogercarole, and thank you, Slow Daphne. Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to be one of my co-authors in next week's message, put words in the thread that begin with the letter K. Remember, I don't go from the start to the finish all the time in a word. The K in thanks, which will be my new short series and will carry us to the end of the year, this thanks series, okay? And if you're receiving this through my email list, that you can send me my words by return email. But words that begin with the letter K, and I will work those into the message for next week. Thanks for joining me through another storm, because every day is a new storm when you learn to enjoy what God is putting us through, because he's bringing us through. And another great of glue moments and reminders that God's love undoes everything, not that it will tear things apart. We are people in this thread who have had our lives hurt, torn, and God glued us back together. And that's what God will do. He will never leave you alone as he helps you put it together, because you don't have to hump. You have to find ways to keep it together. And we do that every Wednesday here on Glue Wednesday, where God's love undoes everything. Thanks for participating, and especially, again, those on the video. Come on, get some stuff in there too, and get a word in. And Rogercarole's word for next week will be kinetic. Kinetic, like a nice connectivity word, all right? Kinetic, and that's energy. So I know that's energy, all right? And congratulations on the new arrival, Rogercarole. Yeah, see, that's the first time announcing that on Facebook on the broadcast. And Daphne's first time that chance to say thanks. Congratulations. All of the firsts that are happening in our life, every day is a first. You've heard that saying, the day is the first day of the rest of your life. So that's it. So thank you. Knowledge. Thank you. Because once we know what we know, that saying, you know what you know, what you know. Once you know, you can go forward. But it takes time. And Daphne, I know you say, yeah, you're slow, but it is part of the deal, my sister. And thank you for being slow and acknowledging it. When we get hurt, when we forget that we're slow and we try to move too fast. My neck is a little sore right now. I'm gonna go put the heating pad on it in a little bit and just stretch it out. And then next week, by the way, I'm going to be broadcasting long distance because I'm headed out of town for Thanksgiving. So that'll be good. Thank you. We're excited and nervous for 2 babies. Wait, you mean that she may be having twins, or that you're going to have the 2 little kids now? Which one, Rogercarole? Uh-oh. We're excited and nervous for 2 babies. Okay, which nervousness are we in? Which 2 are we talking about? Is she possibly having twins? Oh, okay, yeah, two little kids. Yeah. Well, and because Ella is what now, 3, and it's so funny because I know in my family we go 1, 2, 3. When we look at a lot of our older families, kids came every year, every other year, and especially the further back we go. I got it right. Ella is 3, and so Ella will be 3 years older than her new little. Did y'all check already? Little sister or brother. Okay, but so Ella be big sister Ella. All right, so she would pass on some of that personality. But yeah, remember, there used to be that space of 3 is long in terms of the way. So when you think about people who grew up in families with 12 kids, with double digits and stuff, there weren't a lot of years between those kids. You ever hear that joke where the guy says, "I wonder what our parents did for entertainment?" I asked my 13 brothers and sisters. No, me probably said 19 brothers and sisters. But anyway, look, thank y'all for joining me again on Glue Wednesday. I will see you. Have a wonderful week and a safe weekend. Over and out. Peace. I'll let 3, which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, that may be our closing word as I count down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And a thumbs up is just as good. Thanks again, y'all. Peace.